The left could not help themselves when the right came out and said, hey, maybe you shouldn't have drag shows for children with a big neon sign saying it's not going to lick itself. The left had no choice but to defend it. I mean, in all honesty, they had every choice to just be like, yeah, okay, we think that's nuts too, but they didn't. Well, there are many leftists who are saying it's a bad thing, but most of the prominent left-wing personalities and media outlets are defending lewd sexual activity for children, saying, but it was family friendly. Yeah, because they're pedos. They think it's family friendly. It's not family friendly. And I'd be willing to bet a large sum of money most families would probably be shocked when they saw what was going on with these drag shows for kids. The reality is most people don't know about them. But in proving why it is, people have been flocking to Texas and Florida in droves. Texas and Florida now have representatives who are pushing bills to ban drag shows in front of minors. I'll start by saying, guys, I'm pretty sure they're already illegal. But, okay, make a specific bill, I guess. At least do something. Because apparently they weren't doing anything. People had to protest this stuff. And sure enough, prominent left-wing voices are coming out and defending drag shows for children, saying it's just cosplay. It's just dress up. Meanwhile, children are stuffing dollar bills into the thongs of adult men. And there's a big sign saying it's not going to lick itself. All right, let this be the hill they choose to die on. OK, I'm not entirely convinced this will move the needle with most families anyway, because it's the economy, stupid. Why are people moving to Texas and Florida? Well, for the most part, it's the economy. They destroyed the economy and people don't want to live locked down in these cubicles in places that smell like sour milk. People want to be able to live and enjoy themselves. In Texas and Florida, you can pretty much do that. That's the crazy thing, you know, out here where we're at in Maryland. I was complaining, I shouldn't say complaining, but I was noting that there was like nobody at these shopping centers. We went out on Saturday, Memorial Day. You think it's going to be hustling and bustling with the 3-day weekend. Everything was completely empty. It was Saturday at like 9 p.m. and I was in a big shopping center, nobody around. You go to Florida, you go to Texas, what do you see? Everything seems to be fairly normal, like the pandemic almost never happened. So people are moving there, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe the people who are staying in these other places are locked down and doing nothing. And many people have moved to Texas and Florida, making them hustling and bustling. All right. Well, we got a midterm election coming up. The latest polls are shocking and terrifying for Democrats. And they decided, you know what? Let's make it worse. We have this story from mysanantonio.com. Texas Rep. Brian Slatton to file bill to ban drag shows in front of minors. Now, you may have missed the story yesterday, so before we get into everything, I'd like to show you exactly what this is all about. And we have this tweet from Derek Brunson of USC, taking umbrage with kids attending Pride Month drag show at gay bar. Derek Brunson says he has no problem with gay people, but the UFC middleweight did have a problem with children attending a drag show at a gay nightclub over the weekend. The event, held at Mr. in Dallas, was promoted as a drag the kids to Pride and was meant as a celebration of people being themselves to kick off Pride Month. The nightclub encouraged parents to bring their kids for a drag show Saturday morning. Yeah, it's I'm pretty sure a 21 and up only venue that did a special morning thing to allow children in. Video online showed drag queens taking dollar bills from kids' hands while dancing on a makeshift runway beneath a pink neon sign that reads, "It's not gonna lick itself." Kids also danced alongside drag queens while their parents looked on. It's not going to lick itself. You know, we talked about this quite a bit the other day. There's a photo that went viral a while ago. And let me just tell you. It shows I think like a 9-year-old little boy standing next to a naked adult man and touching his arm. The little boy is called Queen Lactatia. Lactate. We get it. Yeah, these people are grooming these children, okay? Let's talk about the law. Let's talk about where this goes in November and what Derek Brunson said. You know, he said, this is a bit much. Children at a provocative drag show. Can we protect our children more in today's society? Children don't need to be at strip clubs or any provocative show throwing money. Shaking my effing head. Read the message on the board in the background. Yeah. All right. I talked about this yesterday, but let me explain what grooming is. Grooming is when you bring a child to an event that is not necessarily overt in terms of the sexual activities. Grooming is how you get someone into these cultures, into this behavior. So in this instance, the idea is have a bunch of adults dance. Tell the families it's family friendly. But when these parents come in thinking it's just a pride event and there's a big sign saying it's not going to lick itself, well, those parents are met with a challenging circumstance. Call it out and say, this is too much. I did not agree to this, but then you're a bigot. Or sit there and have your children be groomed by pedophiles. And that's what they did. They had their children. They chose for their children to sit down and be groomed by pedophiles because these parents are pathetic. Well, and they're okay with their children being groomed. I'm going to say it again. When adults do sexualized dancing for children and then have them give them money as if it's a strip performance, and they put a big sign up, or the sign was already there saying it's not going to lick itself, which is a reference to adult activities, they're pedophiles. I mean, that's it. Now, you can talk about, well, are they actually abusing the kids? Don't care. This is what grooming is. And if you are grooming kids for sexual activities, normalizing sexual activities for children, you're grooming them, you're a pedophile. Period. I'm not going to entertain these ridiculous and psychotic arguments. Here is Matt Binder. Matt, how's it going, man? We had him on the show. I thought it was a good show. I don't think Matt was able to suss out any of his ideas, and he just kept repeating the questions back at me. But I appreciate genuinely that Matt came on the show, at least as an attempt, because many on the left don't do it. Matt tweets, quote, ban gender and LGBTQ discussions in schools because it is up to parents to decide when and how to bring these issues up to the children. Then he puts asterisks. Parents decide to take kids to a family-friendly drag show during Pride. Quote, not like that. You see? Let them die on this hill. Matt, family-friendly. You're a pedophile. I'm not here to mince words, bro. If you think it is family-friendly to tell children it's not going to lick itself, you're a pedophile. That for me is like the line, right? If the event was just in public, like it was outside on a stage, or at a traditional all-ages venue, and there were people in costumes, and they were adults, and they were dancing and doing silly things, I'd be like, not my cup of tea, not a fan of that, but that is just performances. Now, if it's burlesque, now you're crossing the line. You're getting into the activity, you're getting to overtly sexualized activities and bringing kids there. Now you got an issue. Typically, I don't think you'd do burlesque at an all-ages venue. You see where the line is. When you bring kids to a 21 and up club that does a special event for children with a sign saying it's not going to lick itself, and then you try to obfuscate what's going on because you're trying to groom children or you are defending the grooming of children. Okay, let's say this, Matt, you are pedo adjacent. Is that it? Or I don't know, I think maybe he's just a pedo. Here's the point. You do not get to come out and say, no, I'm not. When you're like, it's family friendly to tell children it's not going to lick itself. Okay, if you want to defend that, that's fine. I think you've crossed the line into look, Matt, let me explain this to you, all right? If you end up seeing this, let me explain. They are telling children to perform activities on them. That's what that phrase means. That's literally, it's not going to lick itself, is telling someone to perform an activity on them. Having children sit there and look at that and dance with them underneath that sign is effectively telling children to engage in these activities. Why else? What else is the sign supposed to mean? Oh, it's a double entendre, they say, because they sell ice cream at the nightclub. The nightclub that sells ice cream. I don't care. We know what that phrase means. If you want to bring kids around a big neon sign telling them to engage in adult activities, because I'm trying to keep this one family friendly, then I think you're probably a pedophile. You want to respond to that? If you want to defend that, by all means. But here we go. We got Rep. Anthony Sabatini. He says, drag sex shows aimed at children have come to Florida. I will be proposing legislation to charge with a felony and terminate the parental rights of any adult who brings a child to these perverted sex shows aimed at Florida kids. When will the sexualization of children stop? And we have this, all events in Pride on the Block drag show for kids. So there is a challenge and there is a line. And there is no easy way to place that line. Let me explain. As I mentioned before, if there were people in costumes, like a man dressed as a woman dancing in public, where's the line? If they're fully clothed, like there are drag shows where they're wearing dresses. If that's the line, then you still have the element of grooming, but it's not as overt. And this is the challenge. If there is an adult man wearing a dress and he dances in a park for a bunch of families, should that be illegal? Maybe you say it depends on what he's wearing. It depends on the type of dancing the person is doing. These are real challenges because there is no point at which you say the grooming is not occurring, right? If a person puts on a drag show and it is overtly family friendly, like out in a park and they're wearing a big ball gown dress and they're twirling like a fairy godmother or something, and that's all it is. You can say, well, they're not sexualizing it. They're not having kids involved. They're not taking money. It's just like a costume show, right? But it's a drag show. So what happens next? They then say, come to the next drag show. The next drag show might have someone wearing more lewd clothing or more lewd dancing. Then they say, come to the next drag show. That show may involve someone who's pulling the kids up on stage. And then ultimately you get to it's not going to lick itself. That's the issue. The first drag show might just be a single person in a dress. But then they say, see, that was good, right? That was fine. That was family friendly. Come to the next one. And they increment it up until eventually you're telling children it's not going to lick itself. That is literally grooming. But what do? Is it going to be made illegal for a person to wear a costume and dance without sexualized dancing? No dropping it low, no lewd outfits, no taking money, none of that? Therein lies the challenge. Where is the line? Well, I think it's fair to say you're going to have parents to intervene. I think if it is just a person wearing a costume and dancing, that's fine. And then you have the issue of figuring out where we draw the line. That old saying, like, what is porn? Well, you know it when you see it. Not a good enough answer. But perhaps when they put up a big sign saying it's not going to lick itself, and they have kids stick money in the drawers of these individuals dancing or hand them money, you've now basically become a child strip club. What you need to understand, as I've mentioned many times, strip clubs are not always people getting naked. There are many strip clubs where they can't legally get naked. And people go to these events where women wearing full clothing will be spinning on poles and dancing and crawling up to men and taking cash. That is still a strip club. It is the same culture, and it is, walking towards something more serious. I say this, let the left keep defending it. The Republicans absolutely should be filing this legislation because the left will then come out like Matt Binder did because they're reactive. They're reactive. I love the phrase reactionary, but this is all the left does. Me, I have principles, right? So what I'm trying to do here is break down liberty versus abuse. That's what I try to do when we have these conversations. Where is that line? We do the same thing with abortion. Where is the moral and ethical line to maximize individuals' freedoms and learn to live together? What the left tends to do is reactively just defend whatever it is they're doing. Shuan had pointed this out yesterday. I noted this when she said, stop being scared to call this out because you might be called a reactionary. Yeah. Reactionary is a phrase that references the French Revolution. It's those who reacted to the revolution and were defending the monarchy, blah, blah, blah. These leftists are worried that if they say, hey, you shouldn't tell children it's not going to lick itself, they're going to be called right wing. And they will be. Isn't that fascinating? What makes someone left or right these days? You know what, man? Don't know. I just think these people are losing their minds. The Babylon Bee article you may be familiar with. It said, ingenious move, Donald Trump embraces impeachment, forcing the left to oppose. Because the idea for the longest time has been, if the right is in favor of it, the left must be opposed to it. Now, the right certainly does this sometimes as well. The left will come out with something and the right will be like, no, we disagree with that. And I'm like, that's dumb. Dude, have principles. But it's the exception versus the rule argument, right? On the right, it is the exception when they do that. On the left, it's the rule. The left just seems to be like, whatever the right says is bad. We disagree with it. Take a look. The Daily News says Texas legislator proposes ban on kids watching drag shows, but thinks gun control isn't necessary. What? Yeah, seriously, what? Okay, here's the problem. A drag show, it's a Mott and Bailey. The Bailey is, they're coming out and they're saying, it's just a costume party for children. It's just a costume party. And then, so that's what they're trying to say. And then, well, I'm probably getting this one wrong, but the general idea of the Mott and Bailey is, and I'm sorry. I have it backwards. The Bailey is when they would be saying, it's not going to lick itself. And they say, you know, They present the most extreme arguments. Kids should be stripping on stage like they did with Desmond is Amazing. Queen Lactatia, both little boys, should be posing with nude adult men. Oh, I'm sorry, he had a little tiny piece of cloth on his junk. They do all of these things. They say it's not going to lick itself. They have little boys talking about doing drugs on camera and making snort references. Then when you come out and say this is grooming, they retreat to the Mott, which is, it's just a costume party for children. You're a bigot. You're a homophobe. That's what they do. Mott and Bailey. So here's another weird one. It's like, Texas legislator proposes ban on kids watching drag shows, but thinks gun control isn't necessary. What do these things have to do with each other? They say, drag shows are no place for a child, East Texas Republican tweeted. He was apparently triggered by a weekend show in Dallas, a Dallas bar titled Drag the Kids to Pride Drag Show, which was advertised as family-friendly revelry, a spinoff of the venue's Champagne Drag Brunch, at which kids could dance on stage with performers. Protesters showed up, blah, blah, blah. It's disgusting. Let's see. Do they mention it's not going to lick itself? They're not. They just go on to basically drag this guy. Critics and LGBTQ advocates immediately pointed out the contrast between that and the response to the shootings in Uvalde, blah, blah, blah. Where's the, they're not mentioning it. You see? Because if they wrote this article and were actually honest about what was happening at that event, yeah, people would probably barf in their mouths a little bit. There was a video a few years ago of a small child named Desmond is Amazing, and he's stripping on stage at a gay bar, 21 and up, for money. It's a child strip show. They use the word drag because it's a Mott and Bailey. They have a child strip for adult men, and then when you call it, it's just a drag show, it's just a costume, he's just changing costumes. Yes, ripping your clothing off and then thrusting on stage is just changing costumes. Share that one. Man, we showed this in the members only section on timcast.com last night. The Nemesis Quinn, I think the child's name is, who is seen posing next to a almost fully nude adult man. He's got a tiny piece of fabric over his genitals, but other than that, it's completely nude. And the child is touching him and smiling for the camera. It is pedophilia. It is child sexual grooming. If you know the image, just whenever your parents or your friends say these things aren't happening, just show them that photo. Or show them the articles defending that photo, saying right-wing outraged. And then just be like, do you support this? And then they'll probably say, well, I don't support everything. That one's obviously bad. And be like, okay, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, I'm like, you can come out and say, I'm not here to tell you that every story from CNN is fake news. A lot of them are. You don't have to believe me. How about we start with this? What do we agree on? Show them that photo. Show them that story. Show them it's not going to lick itself and say, okay, it's not going to lick itself. Do you agree that crosses the line? Okay, can we start there and say that's bad? Would you then be willing to look at this other video of Desmond stripping and say, maybe little boys shouldn't be removing their clothing for money on stage at a 21 and up gay bar? I got to tell you this. If your friends and family, for tribal reasons or otherwise, look at this and say, I think that's fine, then I don't know what to tell you. But your friends and your parents are pedophiles. Now, they can argue that's not true, and they're going to. They're going to say, oh, Tim's accusing them of being pedos, blah, blah, blah. Yo, conservatives drew that line a long time ago. Conservatives drew the line at calling these people pedophiles a long time ago. I'm only saying that when you have children handing money to men who are doing sex dances under a sign saying it's not going to lick itself, they're pedophiles. For me, that's where I'm like, okay, that's overt. That's overt. For the men who are handing a child money who's stripping on stage, they're pedophiles. I got no problem saying that. Conservatives said a long time ago that, teaching sex ed, LGBTQ sex ed made them pedos. And I was like, well, they're grooming them. And I think a lot of these well-to-do liberals are they're in a cult. So they don't understand. They're brainwashed. This is overt, outright, and obvious. Okay. So in Texas and in Florida, they're going to make it illegal. Good. You know what? Maybe you will have to legally define what a drag show is. And it will probably have language saying like the removal of clothing, sexualized dancing, and things like that. But it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to codify exactly what you mean by this. And they will do everything in their power to get around the law by just going by the bare minimum. But okay, that's reverse grooming. If you push them back saying that's the line you can't cross and they're forced back behind it, you are preventing the grooming. And then you'll say, if you want to go into a park or an all ages venue and wear costumes and dance, okay, fine. If you want to remove clothing, do sexualized dances and have children give you money under very obvious sexualized context, that's where you are breaking the law. But you know what? Let the left keep defending it. And then when you tell your friends and family that these people on the left are losing it and they don't believe you, just show them the left defending this and say, do you defend this? But I'll tell you, there may be no help for the cult. I know people who used to be in the safe, legal, and rare camp on abortion who are now a woman should be able to abort the baby at 9 months electively. That's what Democrats have been arguing for. Elective abortion at 9 months. Now, they always come back and say that never happens. It never. Okay, I accept that. I'm just saying, why are you trying to make it legal? If the baby can survive, why kill it? And I know people who are out like, well, it's a woman's choice. And I'm like, it's the woman's choice if the baby can live. The baby's like at 8.5 months and it can survive easily outside the womb with no help. What's the woman's choice? That's what Matt was saying to us on the show. When we asked Matt, should a woman have the right to choose to kill her baby at 9 months? His woman's choice. Okay. They will support anything if they think the cult tells them to support it. So fine. This is the hill you guys get to die on. I'm going to sit back and be like, I want nothing to do with that. Make it illegal for all I care. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.